we moved on to doing our monthly game dev challenge, where we choose a topic, and that topic would be something that we spend every Sunday of that month doing. So far we've done quite a few things. I've bolded them, it's a bit hard to screen. But we first made making a character from scratch, concept to playable. We did a session on shaders and materials. We did AI and behavior trees as well. We also did a little bit on UI, and we've done a little bit on lighting as well. And particle effects, actually. I forget, we've done 6 now. So this will be the 7th one that we're doing now. And we're going to be looking at this one here, but we're probably just breaking it down in half for the month. So I want to be looking at raycasting and collisions in. The collisions in Unreal is a bit... I know that like in the settings, there's like 30 whatever. There's a predefined amount of different channels that you can make and use. And I've kind of like see it, but I've never really explored it properly. So it always seems like this slightly weird that I don't properly understand. So I'm going to spend this first stream just like reading up, trying to get clues on how the whole system works. Trying to play out with stuff next week on this. Make some things so we can write some code and see how it responds. I want to like do traces. Like it's one of the things I did really early on in Unity, and then I'm confident using traces to find stuff or to, doing even that simple like, am I on the ground or not? I feel in Unreal at the moment, I wouldn't be confident in just doing a simple thing like that, of doing a trace down, detecting if I'm on the ground, and changing a variable as a result of it. I've seen code like it, but writing it from scratch is different to like being able to read and understand it. So it's just trying to gain a bit of familiarity and experience exploring. First thing we're going to do is going to be looking through the collision section in the documentation. So the reference thing isn't going to be massively useful for us. This is more of what all of the different things mean. So yeah, I mean, reading through that may not be so useful. The how-to has specifics in here, I guess. A simple collision to a static mesh. Dot collision. Custom object type to your project. New collision in your game. I'm not too sure how many of those are super useful. We'll probably have a little glance at them, but mainly the first one I wanted to look at is O. And this gives us an overview. So let's get started reading through this. It's a bit cold, so I'm going to hold on to my hot drink. Maybe sipping periodically. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Shall we? Okay. So collision responses and trace responses form the basis of how Unreal Engine handles collision and ray casting during runtime. Every object that can collide gets an object type and a series of responses to define how it interacts with all other object types. So this is why I've got this document open as well. Oh no, not this one. This one. I want to start like making notes about this as I do it as well. So I'll probably set it as a separate file so I can just alt tab between them. The first thing it's saying is that every object that can collide gets an object type. It seems the responses that define. I think that the responses is like that list of tick boxes where you say, like, this is how I should interact with these different things. So object type is something I want to talk about. I maybe won't write definitions yet, but and then we also have responses. Let's have a look then. So let's go back to here. Okay, so when a collision or an overlap event occurs, both or all objects involved can be set to affect or be affected by blocking, overlapping, or ignoring each other. Good day to you, Halsey. Nice to see you. Trace responses work basically the same way, except the trace or the raycast itself can be defined as one of the trace response types, thus allowing actors to either block it or ignore it based on their trace responses. I'm going to read that sentence again, sorry. So before the sentence we said that when a collision or an overlap event happens, both or all of the objects involved can be set to affect or be affected by blocking, overlapping, or ignoring each other. And they said trace responses work basically the same way, except the trace itself can be defined as one of the trace response types, thus allowing actors to either block it or ignore it based on their trace responses. Yeah, I've read it twice, and it felt like it was making sense, this half sentence. So when this response list, this is saying like how objects of this type should respond to hitting with other things, right? But when it's a trace you're not actually an object, I guess, right? At that point, you're tracing to see, do I hit with something? Can be defined, but you can say that this trace is of this type. And that would allow actors to... Yes, that makes sense. Okay, I'm glad I stopped and read that 4 times. It's basically, if you got 2 objects going into each other, they both are objects and they have their own object types. However, with a trace doesn't have an object type, because a trace is just something you generate from a point, and then for you to query, there's something hit somewhere, right? And so you would give the trace saying, I am of this type, and then that allows it to respond in a way that is set up in the list of responses of the thing it hits. So if it hits like a water actor, for example, that would have special setup of how things should respond with it, and it'll check the trace type against its own list to determine how it should act. Okay, I think that makes sense. For interactions, there are a few rules to keep in mind with how collisions are handled. Blocking will naturally occur between 2 or more actors set to block. However, simulation generate hit events need to be enabled to execute event hit, which is used in blueprints, destructible actors, triggers, etc. Again, that sentence on its own isn't really sinking much in. Blocking will naturally occur between 2 or more actors to block. However, you need to have simulation generates hit events. Needs to be enabled. Execute event hit. We don't even know what event hit is. I guess that's... Yeah, that doesn't really explain things very well at all, unfortunately. Like, what is event hit here? Is that what happens when 2 things block each other? Okay, but this needs to be enabled. All right, that's something we can jot down and look into a bit more. Just ignore the text. So setting actors to overlap will often look like they ignore each other. And without generate overlap events, they are essentially the same. You need generate overlap events on as well. We'll jot that down as well. We should do these as bullet points. Appropriate later. Oh my gosh. I have a surprising amount of difficulty working with text editors. They tend to not do what I want them to do a lot more often than you'd imagine. I use them weirdly. Okay, for 2 or more simulating objects to block each other. I'm guessing this is simulating. They both need to set their block. They both need to be set to block their respective objects. For 2 or more simulating objects, if one is set to overlap an object and the second is set to block the other, the overlap will occur but not the block. Yeah, because both things need to block. Yeah, so let's just write in our own words. 2 objects to block, both objects to be set up to block their respective object type. Okay, for 2 more simulating objects to block each other, they both Oh, sorry, my. So overlap events can be generated even if another object blocks another, especially if traveling at high speeds. Okay. So if by the time it detects that it's a block, that they're actually possessing the same space or part of the shape is occupying the same space, I guess, in the world, then that would be an overlap. It'd be corrected and ended up moving apart, I guess, but it would still generate that event. It is not recommended for an object to have both collision and overlap events. Though possible, there is much that needs manual handling. One object is set to ignore, and the other is set to overlap. No overlap. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so this is for blocking. There was one for overlap. If one is set to block and the other is set to overlap, overlap will occur. And then it was if for ignore, one is set to overlap, the other is set to ignore. Okay. There's also that bit here that I found interesting, that not recommended to have both collision and overlap events. Typically have either overlap or collision events. Yeah. Okay. So for the purpose of testing levels around your world, default plane editor camera is a pawn. This can be blocked by anything that's set to block pawn. The simulate an editor camera for possessing anything is not a pawn. You can freely clip through everything. Any collision. Yeah, if I'm honest with you, I wouldn't have remembered off the top of my head that there's a different drop down for that. Let's go in and we're using 4.25.3. We'll make a new project. This should open. Just opening on the other screen. We'll have a look at that in a moment. So common collision interaction examples. These interactions assume that all of the objects have collision enabled, set to collision enabled. So that they are set to fully collide with everything. A weird sentence. If collision is disabled, it is as if ignore has been set for. So we want to make a quick game project. What would be good for testing collisions here? Traces. I could utilize one existing first person. That could be first message stuff. Go ahead and do that. We probably want it to be CPP later. Real-time ray tracing should be. I don't know. Is that like the newer type? I think it is, isn't it? I'm sure if this is the new. Yeah, this is. Okay, so this is particular like for lighting stuff, I think, by the looks of it. So that we'll need that for this. Is it? Yeah, I expect that. So let's go ahead then. So we are in challenge 7. And we call this our project now. That. And I was interested in just checking out that plane editor and simulating editor camera thing. Okay, so this will be a step to explain what is happening. There's a sphere. The sphere is a physics body, and the box is a world dynamic. Yeah, things like that I feel like I need to know more about. By changing the collision settings, are these objects types? I guess. And by changing the collision settings, we can get a number of behaviors. So collision. By setting both of the collision settings to block each other, you get a collision. Great for having objects interact with each other. That icon. Okay, so within the sphere, we say what object type there. Right, okay. I guess I'd like to look up object types, the existing object types. Physical body, I think it was. World dynamic. Okay, that's enough for me to. It should be stupidly loud as normal. Oh no, it's not this. Sorry, I need to. Still loud anyway. Okay. So if I was to, is this the simulate? Then it must be on. Yeah. So you can see, I can fly around and move anything because I'm using a different pawn. Character is in the world. We just need to possess it. And if we're in a different character, then we're in a pawn which will have with it. Because we've already got a bit of a project set up, we're not using the default pawn, I guess, for when we press play, but it's the same sort of thing. Okay, I'm cool with it. Okay, so we can see that this is a fizz body and it's been set for the world dynamic that we want to block it. And then this one has it the other way around. Okay. That's as expected. So in this case, the sphere and the wall will simply collide. No further notifications of the collision will take place. No notification. Is this where we need to have simulate generate? Right. Okay. First collision is useful in general, but the bare minimum for physics interactions. But if you want something to report it has collided, so a blueprint or a selection of code can be triggered, then we need to tick simulate. So you only did it on the one of them. Okay, we'll have to read through this in a sec. So Oh yeah, we're by here. So we set it up so that we tick the box on simulation generates events. It's still the same setup other than that. And then, as in the example above, sphere is a physics body. It is set to block world dynamic. However, the sphere has also enabled simulation generates hit events, so it will trigger an event for itself whenever it collides with something. The world is world dynamic and set to block the physical body actor, which is what the sphere is. Since the wall is not set to simulate generate event hits, it will not generate an event for itself. That's to be expected. With the sphere set to simulate generation hits, simulation generates hit. I keep saying that wrong. I keep expecting it to be called simulate this rather than simulation. Anyway, simulation generates hit events. The sphere will tell itself that it has had a collision. It will fire off events such as receive hit or on component hit in the sphere's blueprint. Now, if the box had an event for collision, it would not fire because it will never notify itself it has happened. Right, sorry. This is really badly worded. It doesn't mean if it's signed up for this. It's basically saying if this wall had something defined saying when something collides with me, I need to crumble. It wouldn't do it in this instance because it's not generating the events. That's what I'm reading from that. And that makes sense at least. Okay. Further, an object that is reporting rigid collisions will report them all and spam reports when it's just sitting on something. So it's best to be careful to filter what is colliding with within its blueprint or its code. So an object that is reporting rigid collisions. I don't know where rigid collisions. Not mentioned that ever before. We'll report them all and spam reports when it's just sitting on something. Best to be careful to filter colliding within its blueprint. I think that's basically saying if you collide with the floor and you generate events, it's not the moment you just hit it, it's just if you're resting on it. I guess with physics, if there's any momentum going towards, then it would count. Okay. Hey there, Roy. How you doing, dude? No idea what rigid. Oh, overlap and ignore then. It's a Sunday sad face because work day tomorrow, is it? Okay, so for all intents and purposes, overlap and ignore work exactly the same, assuming generate overlap events is disabled. In this case, the sphere is set to overlap or ignore them. So here, one is on overlap. This is still on block. Both actors need to be block. They will not collide yet. We knew that. Set to overlap. Set to overlap does not have generate overlap. It's not collided or effectively. That's one of the main things. It's like basic, but I think one of the main takeaways to start with. And without generate overlaps, they're the same. So, like key points here would be collisions. Both things need to be set to block. No event will be fired in case of collision unless simulation generates event ticked. Okay, and then overlaps. one thing. I guess they both need to be, yeah. How to do this in a nice condense. Oh, right, you're saying you had a week off now. After that, 2 weeks off. So no, that sounds all right. Just 1 week to get through, good sir. And then you'll be most of the way towards December then. Overlaps occur when both objects set. No, not said. I guess set would be fine. Yeah. When both objects are set to overlap, or if one is overlap. No overlap event will be fired in the case of an overlap, unless we have our generate overlap events enabled. Okay, so let's see where that tick box is. Generate overlap events is up here, right? Now, do they both need to be on or just one? That's something I'm interested in. That's right. Here, yeah, we've read this bit. So the alternative setup to this would be that being set to ignore, and there's one being set, yeah, because they're saying that it's the same if you don't have generate overlap. Okay, so let's actually get something responding to it then. Unlike collisions that can fire every frame, the overlap events receive begin overlap and receive end overlap, which only find those specific. Okay, that's a good point. So collision events can fire every frame. The objects still colliding. As a ball team. Brackets. Okay. For overlap events, just 2 events overlapping, which is the begin overlap, receive begin overlap, and receive end overlap. Don't need to say when they. Okay, so for an overlap, we're in the notes section now. So for an overlap to occur, both actors need to enable generate overlap events. Both need to. This is for performance. In the case where both the sphere and box want overlaps, when we move either the sphere or the box, we do overlap query to see we need to fire any events. I don't understand that sentence. We're going to read it again. So for an overlap to occur, both actors need to enable generate overlap events. This is for performance. In the case where both the sphere and the box want overlaps, when we move either the sphere or the box, do an overlap query to see if we need to fire any event. What does it mean by we do an overlap query? If the box doesn't want overlaps, then when it moves, we will not do an overlap query. But now we could be overlapping with the sphere. So the sphere would need to tick and check for overlaps each frame in case someone has moved. All right, I'm half getting the idea here that we're saying, but it's sounding like they both need to generate overlaps on Both actors need it on, it says. Trying to understand what it's getting at with this. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Like, what's the point? Are they trying to say like this isn't how it works? Then is that why we do this? Okay, so sphere collision set up here. They both have generate overlap events ticked. They both look different. These, why that is? Is it based on the type? Because one is a world dynamic and one is a physics body, probably. Yeah, let's just assume that conclusion there would be both objects need to have generate overlaps. Events enabled or to be fired. An event for itself. As stated above, both actors need to block each other. They do not, they will not collide. But an overlap does occur here. What does it say about block? They don't both. Have they just left that in from the last copy and paste? Yeah, they have. That's cheap. An overlap does occur here, and the event for the sphere and the box. So the overlap happens because one is block and one is overlap. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they left it in to remind you that they both need to be blocked for it to be a collision. So it would actually be an overlap instead. They both have these. Okay. Blast. All right. Fine. So we have. Let's have a look at some of the things we've got then. Where's our character? In by default. We go into the collision of this. It's everything. Okay, so where's that collision profile? Is it? Would we have to say custom? Okay, yeah, and then it shows that, right? Okay, so first off, generate overlap event. At the moment, our character doesn't generate overlap. Generate overlap event. Oh, during level stream. Simulation generates hit events. That is there as well. Oh, I've clicked on the bloody wall. Sorry, my bad. Hey there, Northern Hawk. How are you? So I guess we could try and play around with this just to solidify what we've gone through. Did you take part in Ludum Dare, Northern Hawk? Hooray. Things are okay with me, thank you for asking. I mean, it's just having a look at collision profile, something I'm not very familiar with at all, with the aim of trying to get a bit more comfortable with it. At the moment, okay, let's do something simple. Let's make this wall. What object type is it? Where do we set what object type? Could it be on this? Well, yeah, well, what does default actually mean? I'd like to see what is the default. Set this in the this data in project setting. Go and have a look at project settings and shall we? Oh, these are the. Okay, here. Any of your project profiles, you modify a profile, it can change collision behavior. Therefore, when you change currently existing used one. Okay. Now, is there default in here that you can see? I can't see one called default. Work is not giving you enough time. That's a shame. That's a shame. No problem. Is work enjoyable at least, or is it stressful times? Yeah, so I don't know what the default is. Ah, default responses. Hang on. No. This is this 18 channels. No, this is different. This is different. So I don't know from the collision profiles. It's not like a preset. It's a bit annoying. Okay, so collision settings, I guess. The project settings. Okay, so this is our list of all existing. Profiles. There is no entry default. And that one is set up. Move the heading below the break. Oh, there you mean. I might not even need to do that if I actually set it as a heading. There you go. There you go. I'll see. The world has been saved. Ooh. Yes. So what I'm trying to look at the moment is we have this default collision proof specified in the static mesh asset. Oh, okay. It that be would it actually be in the asset itself? Would it be in this? Is there anything about collision stuff in here? That's exactly what these sessions are meant to be, for us to poke around and figure out how stuff works. So much to the engine. Complexity. Okay, cool. Collision presets. Block all. Great. Okay, good. We found an answer to our question. Default means it is defined. We'll use the collision profile defined in the static mesh. The actor. For example, wall uses name this asset 1m cube. A static mesh. And under collision, it has been set to block all. And that is defined in this list, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't read this at the moment. That makes me nothing in. We again. Where were we? Collision down here. And you're saying it is enjoyable, so it's no problem. That's good to hear, Northern Hope. What's up, Dando Calrissian? I don't know that one. Is it Lando? How you doing, Poker Badly? It's nice to see you as always. Oh, it is Lando from Star. I didn't know his surname. Sorry. Sorry. Forgive me. So in here, block all comes up here. So that blocks all actors by default. Okay, so if we wanted to change that, then we want to go ahead and make this block. It's super simple stuff. This is sort of stuff we want to do to get used to it, right? So we say, okay, for this, our collision profile, we no longer are using our default. We want to say no collision on that particular wall. Done it. Go and have a look, shall we? Play. Uh-oh. I think it's because it's simulating. Just go. Play like that. This wall. So first off, you can see our bullets bounce off of this. They don't on that one. And you'll also see that I can run through it as well. Okay, good. Uh-oh. It just kills me when I get there. It doesn't give me any other options. Fast. Okay, good. I'm happy so far. Oh, I'm just going to condense my notes quickly because some of it I've repeated now. Simulate this. Yeah, we can get that. Yeah, that as well. Both things need to be set to block. Okay. Overlap. Yeah, we've talked about that now for ignore. Okay. Yeah, the ignore is fine. Okay, I think these fit together. It fits a bit better. I'm just going to have a very quick toilet break. I won't be a sec. Be right back. got the first drink of water as well. Righty. Okay, so that is good. I guess one thing we could look at in that example is the projectile, I guess, that we're using when we're shooting. I'm not too sure what it uses, so maybe we can look at the gun. I don't know how is it all in the first person character? I don't know whether this is where the logic is for the, doesn't look. So I'm not too sure what is responsible for shooting the gun at the moment. We can have a look. We can find it in the content. Probably projectile. First person projectile, this thing. Okay, so this will handle the movement. So that's good. We need this open. I'm interested in just seeing where the logic is done anyway. So we can check in the reference viewer and see what uses it. First person character. It's in the first person. Where is it then? I don't see anything in here. It could just be all done in the code, I guess, right? But the projectile must be set up as an asset in here. Yeah, the projectile class, and then it'll use that in order to spawn it. We could always have a look if we wanted to. We able? Hello there, bumper cart. And okay, see you soon. Okay, good. We got it in here, have we? Oh, it's gonna be. I guess actually, it's a collision project. Parent class is a collision project character. So that's made that by default for me, but then we need to know what the parent class of that is just the name of the asset. So let's open our collision project. I don't know whether how good if the find works with spaces and that. Hey there, Brainoid. There we go. So we have one of these. CPP of it. So in here, I'm guessing this will use the logic for shooting and all that jazz there, right? So let's look at what's the name of that asset, the projectile. The projectile class and skeletal are set in the derived blueprint. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So when we fire, it makes sure that we've got one, and then it will go ahead and it will spawn an actor of that type. Yes, that's what we expected to see. Good. Okay. So now we're looking into that just because we want to know what the projectile was, and then we can use this to work out. We can chuck in some events in here, basically, is what I was interested in doing. So we can do it on hit event. I don't know for sure what it's called. Is it on actor hit? Event hit this here. Event when this actor bumps into a blocking object or blocks another actor that bumps into it. This could happen due to things like character movement, set location with a sweep enabled, or physics simulation. That's what sweep means with set location then, is it? It'll like move across to it slowly. Well, theoretically, it'll move across, sweep its way across to it. So if it does collide with something on the way, it can bump into it. For events when objects overlap, like walking into a trigger, see the overlap event instead. Oh, it's funny. All these the comments here are similar to what we've been writing down. When receiving a hit from another object's movement, be self-moved is false. So self-moved is going to be what the information about whether you're the one who moved in this collision, is it? I guess. Safarako, hello. Good to see you, dude. Thank you so much for bringing your community over. How you doing? And welcome, Trash Uncle's Dustbin. Welcome along. Hello there, Epsi Polim. How you doing? Hello, hello, hello. What were you up to on stream today? So yeah, today on Sundays I do what I call a monthly game dev challenge where we choose a topic that I don't know anything about really, and we try and look into it. So this month I've chosen collision and ray tracing, in the context of detecting collisions and checking, querying, basically, am I close to something? That sort of stuff I want to look into. I've done some of it in Unity before, but in Unreal I've seen code, but I've never really written it. So I kind of want to try and get a bit more confident in it and understand it a bit better. Because whenever anything comes up in work with like collisions and that, I'm a little bit anxious about it because I'm always just like, I can't remember how it all works. I think having a solid understanding of it just makes you more competent. Yeah, ray casting. Yeah, sorry if I say ray tracing. It's this. They use I think they call it ray tracing in Unreal, but it's the same thing, right? Working on a website for our streaming network. Awesome. What's your tell us a bit about your streaming network? Well, yeah, there's a few different traces, right? But I think your point there saying that it's called not a ray trace. But I think in the documentation, Amna knows into this earlier. You go tracing. It comes up as not the real-time ray tracing. That's going to be different, right? Ray casting, tracing, they don't know what they should be calling it. Yeah, welcome. It's nice to meet other Unreal developers as well. So are you a hobbyist or are you work as a profession? Let's open this because this is going to be something we're looking into later as well. Yeah, by channel and that. But first, we're trying to get a base understanding of collision stuff. So okay, so first off, we want to just do we'll do a print string, and we will just say this is collision, right? Give it a nice, beautiful color of orange. Great. So this should now, anytime that this ball would hit, you should get that message. There you go, collision. And this because we turned it off on that wall. Ooh. Oh, is that the ball bouncing around? It was. I got confused because every time it bounces. So that's a great example of what we read about earlier, right? Is that a collision? I think they said if it was rigid collisions or something, that it will constantly spam it, even if it's just sitting on a surface, right? Because there's some gravity trying to apply to it. It's trying to move down a little bit, and it can't. Working on a proper project at the moment, though. That sounds cool. All goes well. We're releasing in a year. Awesome. Oh no, that sounds positive, dude. Oh, I'm very happy to hear more about it. If you want to share stuff, there's not a massive amount of us who are Unreal devs on my Discord, but there's some at least, and there's loads of people who like game dev. Whether when I started, I was using Unity, you see, so it's kind of shifted. Safirako says it's a group of us all around the world. We're a variety network, a bit of everything. Flavor gang. See, I'm immediately thinking this is what. Flavor, because I'm British, so I can't be part of your gang. That's the problem. It's a first tycoon game. Okay, that's an original sounding thing from that alone. You start off working, but you manage. Tape rental store. I used to. That's interesting. I used to work in a tape rental store. I guess I have some affinity towards that idea. Cool. Flavor. That's what Craig David taught you, right? You do that with behavior all the time, indeed. No, don't worry. The Brits are very particular about the. I mean, it's called English, but let's not get into it. Hey, hey, let's not do that. Okay, so that's cool. So we got a collision. Now, what we don't have is that there's no collision events going off of this, right? This wall. Let's jump off of this because this is just a wall, and so it's not going to have any blueprint which defines it. Also, what we'll notice is it doesn't generate hit events at the moment. But nothing's hooked up into it. But what we're trying to do then is just to reinforce our learning on this then, is we can create this. We're going to just call it a wall blueprint. So we now have this wall as a blueprint. Fantastic. So wall blueprint is in. And what we could do in there, just like we did in the last thing, is we can go ahead and we can whack in that event hit. So if we go up, event hit, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. But what we should see this time, we're going to just say collision wall. And we'll choose a nice color. I'm going to go for green. We should see nothing happen. So even though we set signed it up for that event, oh, it does. Well, that's not what I was expecting. Okay, so why wasn't I expecting that to happen? Let's look at that first. I wasn't expecting it to happen is because the following. Let's press escape. Let's jump out of this. This does not have simulate generate hit events on it, which is why I didn't think it would happen. If we read what we wrote in the documentation earlier, both things need to be set to block for collision to occur. No events will be fired in case of a collision unless simulation generation hits is ticked. So it doesn't need to be on both. Collision events can fire every frame if they're still colliding. Okay, so it started. You changed it to the American spelling. Why was it changed? Trash uncles. Project initially started off as a thing for the Brackies jam. Evolved into much more now. Good. Well, we've recently done a game for, yeah, I think Braino just had to say. Interested in seeing more about Kattenberg. Free to check it out there. Kattenberg, indeed. It's a wonderful project. If we will show, shall we? This is just from the Game Jam version of it. But the main thing is this card game where you reveal cards on a board of face-down cards, and then you play your characters on them in order to attack the enemy party. And you have a bunch of different abilities to target different enemies, to defend, to heal, to do a certain type of attack against a certain type of enemy as well. So it might be one to attack the enemy with the highest health, for example. So yeah, this is what we made for Lundari, and we're looking to try and see how we can make it a little more deep and interesting. Indeed, Safranco, I did as well. I made sure that I tried posting your game in my chat on the results night because I saw you were still a few votes short of the 20. Well, ours looks great visually. Like everyone, we managed to get third in Ludendari with it, which was amazing. So like for us to get a trophy, we got 12 overall in the game as well. We did really good in Ludendari. I'm really proud of how we did as a team. But yeah, visually it ended up just working out really, really nice. Spacey did the illustrations for us, which add a ton of character. And then I think the whole setup of it in Unreal helps a bit as well. Yes, indeed. But like kudos has to go. Like those arts are one those things are one thing, but then Brainoid with a bit of me needed to work out how to make these, how to use that art and put it on an object in the world that could be used as a UI thing that could also be affected by the light and the shadows, and to set the ambient light in and to get particle effects going through. Yeah, so it's as much as big credit does go to Spacey. I don't want to downplay the work that went in Brainoid as well. Oh, you got the ratings, did you? Awesome. Glad to hear it, Safarako. A team of 2 programmers and that's it. You need to find a friend. Seek a friend, indeed. Third place in audio, that was. In not audio, sorry, in the art, yeah. But we were 12th in the overall. That 12th is still amazing. 84th is really, really good as well. Good job. Hi, also Elisha Griffin. Welcome to chat. Okay, so we're trying to figure out why that still generates hit events then, because to my understanding. All right, let's do it the other way. Projectile, where are you? First person projectile. Let's go into your details. Vision. Hit events. Oh, is it? It's going to be the vision comp or the static mesh. What? What? I'm confused. I'm trying to work out why these collision event hits are being fired if none of these. Oh, is it one component hit? It's different. Yeah, basically the documentation then basically said that you have to set them both to blocking in order for a collision to happen. That's fine. But then it said no events should be fired unless you tick the generate hit events on. But I mean, I haven't ticked them. I tried specifically turning it off on this wall. So it'll be on the actual static mesh of it here. Collision. See, this is off here. And that's the wall that's here. You can see there. And then the thing that we're shooting is this projectile. And this projectile has this off as well. So I don't know why is generating the hit event. Gremlins, is that the reason? I think the checkmark is for simulating physics. No, I don't. Oh, during physics simulation. So is that going to be because... Okay, how about we do this then? Let's stop. Let's drop a block above it. I don't know if these are static. No, these have physics on them. Okay, so let's just put this above it and drop it onto it, right? And then we can just simulate. Okay, good. So that didn't hit any events there. Yeah, me too, FC. That's why I'm trying to do this monthly thing, because it's always an area I kind of ignore. So, okay, let's now try and turn... We might need to make this into a blueprint quickly as well. That's fine. We got a blueprint of this now. So let's... Why is everything grayed out? We need to save it first? Is it because we're playing? Okay. Let's go into the collision of this. This just has... Right, no hit events in here. Let's go ahead and click that. And we'll go ahead and do the same thing again on hit. You're right about the physics, though. It seems like it's only for physics-based ones. Okay, so this is going to be our collision block. Let's give this a different color. Again, blue is okay in this instance. But I still don't think anything will happen at this point. If I press play. Okay, nothing comes up. Now, if we make this wall, go to the blueprint of it that we got. And now let's go ahead and make this wall simulate hit events as well. And drop the rock onto it. Then physics is controlling the collision, or responsible for it, right? Rather than the projectile movement component, which is moving the projectile along for us. Ha! We get the collisions. Okay. That was worthwhile doing then, right? Because it taught us a little bit about the difference between them. So I'm going to try and write a little bit about that so I have something to remember. Okay, so what did we... No, we have... So keep in mind, generate simulation hit events is only for physics-driven collisions, I guess. For example, a block falling onto the floor due to gravity. However, a projectile being manually moved forward by the projectile movement component will not is different. In these cases, they will generate. They will. In the latter case, hit events will still be fired, regardless of the generate simulation hit events being checked. Okay. Oh, Dan, are you bringing back the biker moustache from November? Elisha, did you hear that? Elisha has told me since that she thought it looked terrible. Pleased to hear that the idea of the moustache coming back. I did shave today, but I don't think I am doing the Movember this year. Last year we were all in the office. There was a group of us doing it together. But yeah, it'd just be purely at home. No one gets to see my face anyway. Well, I mean, workmates would, but yeah. So I think I will give it a miss this year. Part of me is sad about that. I was right for once. It's a pleasant change. Don't speak too highly of yourself now. World to be a worse place for it. We are going to do a charity stream. I've booked off a week in early December. At the moment, it's looking like it will be the 7th till the 11th. But it could be the 14th till the 18th. I've got this week off. I've asked for this week off as well. Check. I'm also off this, well, because my studio is great. They shut 2 weeks over Christmas. So it'll be almost like a month off. Yes, yeah. So I think I'll do the jam, the honest jam during that week. I just need to come up with rules of how I want it to work. And I'm going to have to work not with Brainoid. And I'm going to just make Brainoid do his own. So at least we have 2 entrants then, right, Brain? Elisha can do one too. Right, Elisha, you can do a game. You're a game dev. Appreciate it. Yeah, well, the point of me trying to do it over a week is that you don't have. We're not expecting a week's worth of work. It'll be just like if you have at any time during that week just to do something, and we'll try and come up with some kind of core idea behind what we want. Either a joint theme or a mechanical sort. I've had some thoughts, but I need to pin that down. Thank you for the follow, Rambovina. Appreciate it. So it'd just be a game jam. Last year in the charity stream, I did one of my goals was if we get to a certain cash amount that we would do an honest game jam. So I need to do that. So I am planning to do it early December, and during my next charity stream, I'll actually combine it. So I'll stream all week doing the jam and miscellaneous activities based on raising money. Yeah, whatever. It's not going to be super strict. The one thing I will say is I will play every entry live on stream. Anyone can participate. I might make some kind of ground rules on how I want it to, like what you start with. And I want people to also understand. I don't want people to think it's like it's super hardcore competition, because then you get people. There's always people who kind of bring in a game that they've already started and then try and finish it just so they can get praise. And I just want people to try and make something and have a bit of fun with it, you know, rather than see it as a competition. No, I was actually thinking about it in the bath today, Poker Badly, about the charity. Yeah, due to I used to work in education and stuff and that as well. So I was going to try and look for probably like a children-oriented charity, but there's nothing. Not to say that I wouldn't want to support, but I want to try and support I want to try and maybe avoid doing the like children with special needs accessibility to games, because I think there's loads of charities that do that, and that's great. But more about just something a bit more open to everyone, not just to do with games. So, but I need to finalize it. But yeah, it'll be early December, and I will add it to the HIO calendar thingy-majiggy. When I do it, I just need to decide on the final details. I'm going to give myself like a month. How peed off would you be if you made a PS2 game and you'd have to go and get a PS2 to play it? Okay, yeah, maybe I need to change that statement of I will play any game. I will amend that statement to cover people like you. Okay. Let's carry on. So that was quite, I don't know, kind of worthwhile. I'm not 100% why it doesn't count as a physics simulation. I'm guessing it's just because it's a component is controlling its own movement rather than the physics ticks moving it. Yeah, indeed, Saf. You tell him. You tell him. Okay, that made a little sense at least. I feel that we've dealt with that. We now need to have a look at like the overlaps. So generally, you'd be working with either overlaps or hits. So if we wanted to go ahead and do that, you'd kind of be putting volumes in the world, I think, typically to do that. Do we have any volumes in here? There's a blocking volume. There's a kill volume. Pain-causing volume. I love some of the stuff that's in the default engine. A trigger volume. Okay, what have we got here? I actually cannot see anything to do with it at the moment. How am I meant to know the size of it if it's not showing me outline? You can see that it generates overlap events in here, right? I'm just wondering why. So that basically means it'll overlap with everything. Oh, it actually ignores projectiles. by default in here. That's interesting. It's good that I looked actually, because I was probably going to try and test it with the projectile. We'll try it with the pawn anyway. Walk with the pawn into it. Okay, so I just want to see the visibility here. Like a draw show. I mean, I don't even know what the... It's weird. Is it even like an actor here? Normally you click on things and... Sure how this volume on its own, in its own right works. Okay, so maybe we should make our own one instead. Where's our trigger? Delete that. Yeah, I don't know if is it a native class, this? Like no blueprint for it. A volume. This is strange. Okay. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Let's try and make my own one, shall we? So to make our own one, let's go ahead and make a new actor, shall we? And we'll just our trigger actor. So in here, content, check in here, I don't care. It's going to come from actor. This is going to be our trigger. In here, we have a root. We just want to add a component onto this then. Ah, was it something to do with might have been that. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I still don't want the trigger volume anyway. We'll make... I'd like to think about things that are gonna like what components I use for this, right? So we want to probably add a box collision for this, like so. And then in here, we'll probably, should we do an overlap event? On begin. This is just going to be, we'll just do some more print lines out here. Do a end overlap as well. Very similar. We should probably look at some of the information we're getting out of this as well. And now this is sufficient for me. There. Okay, so this is going to be our trigger actor enter. Exit. And let's signify that. So a green and a red is quite a logical colors for this. Colors, like it's red there, but it's pink there. Anyway. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to look at this then is about the generate overlap events is on by default. Okay. So that is on. And is our first person character also generate? Oh no, this is level. I don't know, like would it be our mesh or our capsule? It would be a capsule, wouldn't it? Yeah, there we go. So this does overlap events as well. Right. Wouldn't it be blocking? I guess, yeah, maybe you just don't need the hit. The collision preset of a pawn is set to block everything. Okay, good. So I think this should be enough for if we walk into it with our character, we should get that event. Don't know where I set it now. Where was it? Did I even add one in? I didn't add one in. That's going to be the first problem. Let's go ahead and add one of these in. We'll just put it above the E in temp. I walk into this. Let's let that spam go away. Trigger. Yeah, there we go. Enter and exit is done. Okay, good. And to reinforce our learning on that, we wanted to make sure that if this was set to not generate overlaps, which would be set on the box, like that, both need to have it, I think. Or is it? I think I remember it saying both need to have it for the event to be fired. So I'm hoping that we see nothing when we go through this. Okay, yeah, we do see nothing. Good. Okay, good. So we have learned that having that checkbox on will allow. Oh, I think I changed it when I pressed play in editor, which means that it didn't save the blueprint of it. Yeah, so we basically learned that walking into this, you can see the trigger enter and exit going off there as we go in and out of it. Great. Now, we are getting collision on it. So let's think about why that is happening then. So it is probably due to the collision profiles of them, I guess. So let's go and have a look at this. So at the moment, it says overlap all dynamic. So world dynamic objects overlap by default. All new custom channels will use. So, okay, this is where it will by default block the projectile. That's it. Interesting one. Might expect. So if we wanted to make this custom instead, and then we set it to overlap, we should now have ourselves a situation where it will not. Yeah, good. And you can see that we did get the enter exit. Good. I know it's simple stuff, people, but for me, this is like a good confidence builder for kind of getting to a point of just getting the basics down before moving on to the well. I'm decorating our code with multicasting dynamic delegate, one param. Hello, I hate macros, but what can you do? Good. What are you doing that for then, Brain? Oh, I was meant to get you that. A reference to my friend's event system that he made, in case you wanted to use that. But if we're happy with just using the basic stuff, well, we can as well. Okay. Hope you lot use blueprint interfaces. What's your rationale? Okay. I also just break. I'm back, do not panic. I did say be right back. I'm saying it was the last I heard it. Don't worry, it's fine. Placing a character on bully, threat, or they bind to a delegate. Game manager, wait. Ah, I see. For the okay, sweet. That sounds a good idea, Brian. Okay, so we have so far just been playing around with a couple of things with the collisions, and we've been looking at the trigger entering. We've got the little trigger in here that you can see when I walk in and out of it. It triggers, and we also set up the projectile to work in that way too. Great. A chair stream, but without even a camera of the chair. We once had a coffee ghost. Why was it called the coffee ghost stream? I can't even remember. Where I accidentally left my stream on at the end of stream and then went to bed in a different room. And then people were coming. I had more viewers in my stream than I normally do from just being AFK. And there was just faint sounds in the house because like my housemates were, there was gentle noises around the house and people were like, where is he? Oh, it's ridiculous. Javasaurus knows about it. He was one of the main coffee ghost viewers. But okay, I don't have that much more time. Ever in 10 minutes, so I'm not too sure what to dive into next. But we could, I think, with the, it might be worth having a bit of a look into this to make sure that we're happy with what we're looking at here. Give ourselves a bit more. So this is just for the physics simulation. It seems that the overlap isn't for the physics simulation then, right? I guess because it's manually doing a check, right? Yeah, on tick, I guess it checks. Can character step up on? Okay. That's just part of the movement component stuff, I guess. Seems weird to be one of the main things that is listed in here, but okay. Then collision. So this. Okay, query only. No physics collisions, and then collision enabled. Okay, okay. So I'm guessing that like this wall over here that we made earlier. It's because we changed the collision, right? But if we change it to block all, the block all actually has both. I'm wondering why. I guess it's because it doesn't specifically say that it blocks. It doesn't say that it wouldn't be used for an overlap, I guess. Because you can have an overlap and a blocker cause an overlap. So if this was set to not also do query, actually, is that what query means? Actually, I'm not even sure right now. Hold on. Let's go back into this box and look at this. So only used for spatial queries, raycast, sweep, and overlaps. Cannot be used for simulation of rigid body. Useful for character movement, things that do not need physical simulation. Performance games by keeping data out of simulation. Okay. Only used for physics simulation, so for rigid bodies and constraints. Cannot be used for spatial queries. Useful for jiggly bits on characters that do not need per bone detection. Performance gains by keeping it out of the query tree. And we have a enable. So this can be used for both spatial queries and simulation. Right, so for me that seems to overlap collision and then both. But I might be wrong with my understanding of that. Yeah, I wonder what. So if we go to block all, that is. Why is it not changing? Why? Is it because of this? Am I in? No. Good. Click on here. Change my preset. It doesn't reset now. So weird. Why would it not do that? Okay, this is changing it. I don't know why the instance wasn't changing that. A little bit peculiar. So what have we got then? So block all. We're just trying to work out like this collision enabled thing. So that'll just do the query like we kind of expected there. I'm just wondering, is there any that just does the physics? I didn't mean to. No, they all seem to either be one or the other, really. Query or a collision. Okay, that's okay. So what else do we have in here then if we want to take this back to custom? Overlap all. It's this type, is it? Yeah, world dynamic versus static. Okay, so the object types. I guess that's one thing I'm kind of interested in. Have a look. I did make a note earlier saying that I'd be interested. What have we got? Object type. I don't know more about the enum indicating what type of object considered when it. Okay, so I guess that's a very loose definition. Object type here. So that's what. Yeah. So object type is enum that defines what type of object this should be. An actor should be considered as when it moves. Defaults in engine are. It's not big old. Let's just write them out as they are. Double static, dynamic, port. Another vehicle in there, in there. Destructible projectile physics body. Destructible projectile. Okay, are they destructible? Destructible. Pardon my spelling. Right, so where are these defined then? Are they going to be in the project settings? Object channels. You can have 18 custom channels. So objects for your an object that has been used by the setting. Is this the same? I don't know if it is. We have new object channel. But object channel is different to object type. We can try and add one quickly, I guess. Let's just call it Dan. I block by default. Great. So I'm a fighter. Does that give us it? No, it doesn't. Okay, so it's not there. Maybe we don't get to set up any extra ones. Just I don't actually understand what it's used for. Actually, isn't it the stuff that's in the collision list? Are they the same things that are listed here, right? Yeah. The object responses. Dan is here now, though. So we can say how it responds to Dan's, but we can't make it a Dan. Oh no, you can make it a Dan. It just didn't show up. Okay, great. Did it take a while to show up? Or did I miss it the first? I don't know. Okay, great. We figured out where you can add that. So adding to this section here. You can add new ones in the project settings. They are referred to as object channels. In there. Good. Does that mean here by default I'm guessing it's saying what it should do when you see how it's ticked as in this channel here as a block? That's going to be the default. Yeah. Okay. What value of either ignore overlap block should be checked for this collision channel in default when setting up collision presets. I think that's okay. Cool. Cool. Right, and then we have trace responses as well, right? So we have visibility and camera. So I very much imagine it would work the same way if I added a new one in here. If we want to do Dan trace and we just say that it's going to overlap instead, just to make it a little different. So Dan trace hasn't shown up there. Don't know if we need to click on and off of it first. Yeah, there we do. Dan trace is in there now, so that gives us a way to add into there, and you can see that the default has gone in this column as well. Great. Same works with collision. Trace channels. What are they called? Yeah. Right. When adding a new one, you need to click on and back on to an object before the channels show up in the details panel. Okay, sweet. So I think that's a good start for our collision stuff. I'm due to finish at 8, so I'll wrap up now. We'll see. Close to on Twitch.